Alright everyone, so today I wanted to go over all of the details and show you guys an example here of the #1 fully free-to-play campaign farmer. And the reason why I say that is this champion is not only farmable in the campaign, but on top of that, he's actually an uncommon champion. One of the very few uncommons in the game that I would ever suggest considering taking to level 60 and 6-star. And you can get this guy in the 10th campaign map here, Godfrey's Crossing. The champion that I'm talking about is going to be this first green guy right here, and it is Saurus. Now, another reason why I say this guy is the #1 most fully free-to-play campaign farmer is just look at rares, for example, here. So unless it's a rare that you can also reliably farm from the campaign, if you look at the drop rate for rare champions, let's just say you didn't want to take your starter rare that you picked to 6-star and level 60, and now you're hunting down particular rares. Well, the drop rates are pretty low. You're looking at 1.4% for mystery shards. Probably don't want to use a lot of ancient shards outside of double rate events either. And then you have to look at skill books as well. So it can be very difficult to hunt down particular rares in this game. And then skill books as well, considering that you can farm this guy from the campaign and he is an uncommon champion, you're going to be able to get a lot of copies of him a lot easier than rares and not even have to worry about using rare skill books. So you can get this guy max skilled pretty easily as well. So let me just show you guys an example here of what he is capable of doing, and then of course go over all the important stuff, including his his skills, masteries, gear, all that sort of stuff. So let's just do, a run or two through Brutal 12-3, which is what I normally farm. And now, speaking of gear, I'll tell you guys all of the important stats and benchmarks that you want to aim for. The gear that I'm currently using, of course, it's going to be above average. I did not, however, pull off any gear from my main teams to use on this champion. So it's, obviously good gear, but it's not the best gear that I have on my account. There are certain benchmarks and things that you really want to be aiming for on this champion that are going to make him farm a lot easier than if you were to not hit those benchmarks. So I'll definitely make sure to go over that in detail as well. So, you're looking at pretty consistent 7, 8, 9 second clear times. Pretty darn good. And let's get into, what you really want to focus on with this champion. So, pulling him up here, of course, his skills, he only actually has 2 of them, and the reason why this is one of the very few uncommon champions that I would even consider taking to level 60 and 6-star, another one off the top of my head is Armiger, is he does have 2 area of effect skills here. His skill 1 with no cooldown is an area of effect, and then his second ability here is also an area of effect that actually hits 2 times. So no matter what skill he uses, even on auto battle, he's always going to hit with an AoE, which is obviously really important for campaign farming. So you can see with skill books as well, can get the cooldown lowered a little bit on this, but besides that, they mostly just provide a bit of additional damage. He is an attack-based champion as well, so pretty typical attack-based stats and gear that you're going to be looking for, but there are obviously some important benchmarks that you want to be aiming for. So first of all, is you really have to ask yourself, and this is something that is going to be based off of the gear that you have available to you, one goal that a lot of people have when it comes to farming the campaign is they try to one-shot all enemies every single wave. And it is possible, especially when you get to more of the mid and the late game. You will get to a point where you can get crazy stats on your gear and get your crit damage, to 170, 180 plus, and easily have the combination of really high attack and crit damage to just one-shot everything. And then you don't even have to worry about speed on any of your gear at all. But that can be pretty difficult to do, and of course, if you don't one-shot everything, then it's going to slow down your run a bit, and, again, it's more like of a mid to late game thing. Another strategy, I like to say this is more of like the mid-game strategy when it comes to gearing out a campaign farmer. It might make your run 1 or 2 seconds shorter, but it's typically, a lot easier to gear up. Especially for an uncommon champion, which is going to have, slightly lower base stats than a rare champion would, is instead of trying to aim for absolutely insane, ridiculous amounts of attack, crit rate, and crit damage, you can not prioritize that as much and just make sure that you have enough speed so that you get 2 actions before the enemies get 1. That way now, instead of having to worry about one-shotting all of the enemies when farming the campaign, as long as you can kill them in 2 attacks, then you're going to be fine. And keep in mind as well that his second ability here also attacks twice, which is really nice because you're going to get a good amount of damage from that as well. So obviously, you want to go with a lot of attack. This is an attack-based champion. Survivability is actually not really extremely important for a campaign farmer if they are built properly. And the reason why I say that is because your number one goal with the campaign farmer is to clear things quickly. You're going to probably be one or two shotting most waves, and that means that the enemies are not really going to get lots of opportunities in order to attack you. Not only when enemies attack you is that going to slow down your run, which you don't want, but obviously that's another reason why you just don't need to build a lot of survivability. So really do, if you have the extra wiggle room to work around with your gear a little bit, you really don't need to prioritize survivability that much on a campaign farmer. Once you get to the point where you are reliably killing most enemies before they really get the opportunity in order to attack you. This guy right here, he's also not using crit damage gloves. The runs that you guys saw were with crit rate gloves. As you do get more to mid and late game gearing, you will be able to switch out your crit rate gloves on a lot of champions with crit damage gloves because you'll be able to get that 100% crit rate on a lot of other sources. But this guy, this is why I say he's got good gear, but he's not got the absolute best gear. If I was using my best gear possible on this guy, he would not have crit rate gloves. He would have enough crit rate on all his other pieces of gear, and then he would of course be using crit damage gloves to even see higher numbers than what you guys saw. So just a bit of a glance through here. Attack, crit rate, and crit damage. Definitely want to get your crit rate capped out, so that's going to be very important. Make sure that you do either have crit rate gloves or you have it have crit on other sources. You do get 5% for your mastery as well, so don't forget to factor that in. Besides that, attack on like your chest is obviously percentage attack is going to be the best option. Speed on your boots to try to get that 200-ish speed is what you're really looking for in order to get that 2 actions before your opponents can get 1. Now it doesn't actually have to be quite that high. There are some masteries that can actually make it a bit easier in order to hit that speed benchmark. So if 200 speed seems a bit intimidating, I'll show you guys some of the masteries that can kind of help you out with that. Another important thing is accuracy. You don't need it. You do not need it on this guy. He does technically have a skill here that puts a heal reduction debuff, but this is not really the goal of our champion. This guy is a campaign farmer. What we are doing is we are just clearing the waves as quickly as we possibly can, not really taking damage, so we don't really need to worry too much about survivability, and having this debuff go up or not is just, it doesn't really mean that much. So you do not need to prioritize accuracy really anywhere on your gear, and that includes the banner. I would much rather switch to something that's going to provide me more damage, an attack-based banner, anything that's got decent stats on it, speed, whatever it has to be. You do not really need accuracy. So just taking a look at the ring here, couldn't really find anything much better than this just right off a few minutes before recording. So again, he's using good gear, but definitely not the absolute best gear. Crit damage amulet, of course, always going to be one of your top priorities for DPS, especially once you get to that 100% crit rate. The crit damage amulet just becomes the go-to choice by far above, say like an attack amulet. And you can see here the banner has kind of got weird mixed stats on it, and is an attack-based banner as well. So now let's get a little bit into the actual masteries here, because this guy, the path that I took for masteries is way different than I take on a lot of other champions. And you guys will see here, first thing that you probably note is I, for the first time, did not actually take War Master or Giant Slayer. This guy is not going to be used in situations where we need that additional damage from Giant Slayer or War Master. We're not going to be doing Clan Boss or high-end dungeons. This guy is strictly a campaign farmer. So going for that Flawless Execution, which is 20% additional crit damage, is just going to serve this champion's overall goal much better. So let's see here. Offense, this is always a must here. That crit rate and the crit damage, always go with those options here. A lot of people take accuracy on most champions for support, but again, we don't really need that heal reduction debuff. It's not important. So just a little bit of survivability, I mean, might as well take it. Survivability is still not important on this guy, but I would say a little bit of extra survivability is even more important than the accuracy is. Let's see, a couple of other noteworthy things here. He's pretty much always going to be at full HP because he's not going to be taking damage, so, that's just additional DPS right there. Here's one of those masteries, these are things that can help out with that speed if you feel like getting to that 200-ish number is a little bit too intimidating. There's a couple of other masteries here like this. I know this one right here, Spirit Haste, for dead allies. If you're using food, which is, you know, you're going to have a team with a bunch of food with this guy because he's a campaign farmer. Probably going to see a lot of dead allies, so this is going to get you some additional speed as well, making getting to that 200 benchmark quite a bit easier. Just a little bit of extra damage. Dead allies, extra damage. Cycle of Violence, you know, this is something that I almost never take, but considering this guy's only purpose really is to be a campaign farmer. I mean, hey, if I can get the cooldown reset on that second ability for a little bit of extra damage, might as well go for it. Let's see, this is a pretty typical one there. This is really mostly just in order to get flawless execution, and anything else really noteworthy here. Of course, I pretty much always take Lore of Steel for the extra bonus from basic sets here. This is really not that important. Heal reductions is only debuff, but a little bit of extra turn meter. It's really not important though. The heal also not really super important. So, you know, most of the important stuff really was in the offense tree, as well as a couple little speed boosts if you feel like getting that benchmark is difficult. But, you know, your primary objective is to kill quickly, not really get damaged, and just move on to the next run as fast as possible. So that's pretty much all the masteries in a nutshell right there. So anyway, that's pretty much everything you really need to know about this guy. He's definitely, you know, an option out there. Very free-to-play friendly as well. If you know, pick the rare that you don't really want to take to level 60 and 6-star them, you can work on this guy pretty much right away. You can head over to that 10th stage in the campaign, gather up a couple copies of this guy, and start working on him as a campaign farmer. So, anyway, that's going to be about it for this video. I hope that you guys enjoyed, and if you did and you want more videos like this in the future, consider subscribing to the channel. Feel free to leave a quick like as well. It means more than you can imagine, so thank you so much to all of you guys who do that. And more Raid Shadow Legends videos, guides, tutorials, all that fun stuff should be popping up on the screen right about now. Feel free to check them out, but if not, until next time, take care everyone. This is Salt of the Salty Guild, signing out.